Being able to let go of the unknown, the timing, and trusting that your baby is on their way to you is often the hardest part of the fertility journey. And if you struggle with this, if you are frustrated because month after month you are doing everything perfectly and your baby still isn't here, then this episode is for you. Today I'm sharing the 4 ways that you can surrender into the unknown of trying to conceive so you can start living your life again in the meantime. Welcome to your journey to fertility. This is the podcast that blends science with spirit to give you all the tools you need as you navigate your fertility journey. I'm your host, Jennifer Edmonds, and for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. I believe that combining the latest scientific research along with the best energetic and mindset practices will help you to avoid putting your life on hold and bring you closer to your baby. Each week, you'll learn ways to support your fertility and trust your body so that you can stop stressing that you'll never have your baby and finally walk your path to motherhood. This is the Your Journey to Fertility podcast. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. And I have a solo episode planned for you today because it's time that I speak about something that I get asked so much about on this journey. And that is the idea of being able to surrender, of just being able to trust, to know that unequivocally your baby is on the way. How can you get into that place of knowing? And it is such a hard one. And I'm sure, like me, that you had your journey to parenthood all planned out. You know, I got married when I was 33. I thought we're going to take a little bit of time just to enjoy being married, and then we'll start trying. We'll fall pregnant around this time because I want to have a baby during this month of the year. And then we'll have another one when the first baby is, about 1 year old. We'll start trying it. I'm sure that, we can all laugh in hindsight about all the plans that we thought we had and how life just turns out so differently. So why is surrendering so hard? And I think this is because of 3 main reasons. The first is that so much of this journey is out of our control, and control is rooted in fear. We grasp onto this idea of needing to control everything because, we think, what is going to happen if we don't? And the second thing is that we assume that we know what's best for us. We get attached to a specific outcome because we think this is the way that things are meant to be. And the third is that when you're in this control mode and things aren't going your way, we end up often in this stress response where adrenaline is pumping, and this narrows our focus, gives us this real tunnel vision, making it very hard to see that there are any other possibilities. So I think that's how we get into this loop, this spiral of wanting to control things, of being fearful. And the problem with this is that, when we're in this state of fear and obsessing about controlling everything, we block ourselves out to possibility and to listening to our intuition and to guidance that might be coming to us from other areas. So I really hope that this episode is helpful for you. We're going to go through the 4 ways that I like to teach my students to help them just come into this idea of surrender. And the ultimate goal here is, of course, we want to get you to your baby. Of course we do, as quickly as possible. But the biggest thing for me, I think, is that you can make your life easier and more enjoyable upon the way. So that's why I think this work is most important. So the first thing is we need to focus on aligned action. So we can't control everything. So what we can do instead is focus on these small things that we can control. When you have a goal, when you're wanting to manifest something specific in your life, you tell the universe, I want to have a baby, I want to have another baby, whatever that might be, your part is halfway done. We then need to, of course, trust that everything that we want to manifest in our life will be on its way to us. And we need to take aligned action and little steps along the way. So this can look like things such as nurturing your relationship. If you have a partner, you're going to be wanting to raise this baby with them. It's not just about this positive pregnancy test. You're planning a life, a future with this little person, and having a loving, healthy relationship before you meet them is going to make things so much easier. And again, this is just one of those little ways that you can signal to the universe that this is what you're ready for and that now is an excellent time. Keeping healthy in ways that feel good for you without being restrictive is another way to really just enhance that feeling of being aligned with what you want. And this is a really tricky one because I'm sure you can relate, and so many of us can relate to the balance between, sure, being healthy and looking after our diet and taking the right supplements, but then getting obsessive about it. So where does it get obsessive? And I think the line, when you know you've crossed it, is it preoccupying your thoughts? Are you worried about going out for dinner tomorrow night with your friends or your partner because you don't know if that restaurant is going to have enough gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, seed oil-free dishes for you to choose from? If it's starting to impact your life and really question the decisions that you would make in a way that you wouldn't if you were trying to conceive, I think that's where the line has been crossed. So yes, we can include vegetables and fruits in every meal. We can focus on getting a lot of good quality proteins into our diet, but can it be something that we do with the view of nurturing our bodies rather than, I am only doing this because I think it will help me get pregnant quicker? And I know finding the balance between those is a lot easier said than done. As I said before, we get so hyper fixated on something happening immediately, we lose the signs that the universe might be giving us that perhaps we need to do something differently in the meantime. And I find, obviously, in hindsight, this is so much easier to admit. But I can give you my journey and my story as a beautiful example. Obviously, I wanted to be pregnant years before I was. And this was especially true for my second journey of trying to conceive, for my second child. And I had it planned that I would fall pregnant when my daughter was 1, and we'd move on and we'd have our 2 under 2, and it would be done and dusted and we'd move on with our lives. And if I look back at my life at that time and the work that I was doing, I was exhausted. I was working in a way that, I enjoyed my work, but it was a lot. I was pushing my body, pushing the limits of my time to the point that I didn't have a lot of time available for my daughter and my husband. And if I look back at that and I think, gosh, if I'd had a second child then, I would have had to cut back on work. That would have impacted me financially, and my whole life would have been quite different. But instead, what did happen, and I'm sure you've heard me speak about my journey in the past, is that I didn't fall pregnant until a couple of years later. And by this stage, we're in the depths of COVID and lockdowns, and my work had completely changed. And COVID gave us this weird and wonderful gift, which was everyone was so happy to connect online. That was something I never saw coming, especially in the work that I did. But when that happened, and when I finally found this beautiful practice of yoga and meditation and breath work, and I realized that I could combine the two, that could be my work, and it wouldn't always have to be rushing to the studio, teaching for 10 hours a day, rushing home and being exhausted. I could teach from home. It just opened up such a world for me. And now my life and my business looks so different. I am able to support myself in terms of my finances, but I'm also able to support myself in what I want to give to my family and my husband, which is my time. So yes, I wanted to fall pregnant well before I did, but the little signs that the universe gave me along the way, and then the big rocks that were thrown in my face, like, lockdown and my studio shutting and all of these things that made me reassess my life. I can look back now in hindsight and realize that I was being guided to something much bigger and much better. And I'm not saying that we go through everything for a reason. I don't believe that. But sometimes we go through enough things that are a diversion from what we want to make us realize that it could be something better on the other side. So I hope that helps. So that was number one. Number two is to try and appreciate what is thriving within your life. Redirect your focus to what is working and to what you do have. And I know, gosh, this idea of gratitude gets talked about a lot. And I kind of love and hate the idea of gratitude because it gets sort of thrown into the toxic positivity bucket where it's like, well, you didn't get what you want because you just weren't practicing enough gratitude. You weren't grateful enough for what you already had. That is not what I'm saying, and that is absolutely not how it works. But if we can start to celebrate everything that's beautiful in your life, and you don't have to compare yourself to anyone. You don't have to look at, your single friends who would love to have a family, but they haven't found a partner that they want to do that with yet. You don't have to go, well, gosh, I'm luckier than them. I should be more grateful. It is not about anyone else in the whole world. It's only about you. You don't have to feel more grateful than anybody. Just focus on what you do have. And sure, we can focus on the big things like we have 2 arms, 2 legs, we're healthy, we very likely live in a country where we feel safe. Often, a lot of us, I'm sure, listening to this, you have a wonderful partner by your side, perhaps supportive friends around you. All of these things are amazing. Sure, and be super grateful for those where you can. But it's little stuff that I find makes a bigger difference. So, gosh, being able to wake up on a Sunday morning and feel rested, or to have a cup of coffee in the morning where you don't have to be anywhere. You can just sit at your table or out on your balcony and just appreciate the glory that is a cup of coffee. Just little things. And perhaps a nice way to do this is to create a list if you have a journal, or even just through the notes app in your phone. Something that I liked to do when I was trying to get into this practice, when I was trying to conceive, was to spend 5 minutes before I went to bed just jotting down 3 or 4 things that happened that day that brought me joy, that I felt grateful for. Little things like, my mum called me, or I had a really great conversation with a friend I hadn't seen in a long time, or the special at my local cafe at lunch was like the best salad ever. It was so delicious. Just little things. And I find that these are, when they are practiced frequently, these things add up. And I just want to reiterate that you do not have to sit into this feeling of joy and gratitude all of the time in order to get what you want. It's true that the frequency of joy and gratitude does attract probably more of what we want in life, but if you force yourself to be there, you can't trick your brain into feeling grateful or joyful. You have to genuinely be there. So if you feel genuinely happy for 5% of your day and the other 95% you're feeling pretty crap and miserable, you don't beat yourself up about that. Be okay with all of the emotions that are present. We don't have to be grateful every moment of the day. Your doctor's surgery calls you to tell you that your transfer is being cancelled this month for whatever reason. You're probably not going to be joyful in that moment. And please don't ever think that you need to, but be okay with those feelings that are there. When possible, that's when you find moments of joy to kind of balance them out. So number 3 is live for right now. Stop putting your life on hold. This was probably the thing that I heard a lot on my fertility journey, but I didn't hear it, if you know what I mean. So many people would be telling me, well, just do this, just do that. But I completely ignored them until all of the things I was trying to do to help my fertility were taken away from me because of COVID. I couldn't go to the fertility clinic. I couldn't go to acupuncture. I couldn't go and do my hypnosis sessions, whatever it was. So being able to live your life doesn't mean that you're giving up. It's not signaling to the universe that you no longer care about your baby or bringing your baby home. It is about prioritizing yourself. And that is the most important thing on this journey. So one of the best ways I like to get students to practice this is to make a list. So what is it now? We're at the beginning of August. If you knew 1,000% to be true that you were going to be pregnant by the 31st of December this year, how would you show up in your life? What would be different? What would you do each day? Make a list. If you knew 100% that you were going to be pregnant within the next 5 months, how would your life be different? Sure, you'd still look after your body because you want your body to be, a nurtured, healthy place for your baby to grow. But would you avoid booking that weekend away? And, if you have to book something that's free cancellation, just in case you need to cancel at the last minute, do that. But do the things, book the trip, eat your favorite foods. That delicious lasagna with a glass of wine is not going to be the be all and end all of your fertility that month. Would you be Googling every tiny thought that popped into your mind if you knew you'd be pregnant soon? If going down these rabbit holes of these Reddit threads of people that may have had a similar symptom to you 2.5 years ago, I'm sure you can relate. Would you be doing that? Because we know that anytime we go down this rabbit hole, we're not helping ourselves and we never feel better for it afterwards. Would you do that? So make a list of everything that would be different in your life if you knew without a doubt you'd be pregnant in the next few months. And then how can you start living your life that way now? Again, this is not about giving up. It's not about, putting your attention elsewhere. It is about coming back to the most important thing, which is you. And your baby and the universe know this for sure. Another thing I really like to do is get my students to sit with their baby every day. Put your hands over your belly, talk to your baby. They're on their way to you. Start opening up a conversation with them. Have a few moments where it's just you and them, where it's silence. You don't have to be anywhere. Ask them if they have any messages that they want you to know. Tell them everything that you want them to know. I love this practice so much because it's, sure, it goes down the slightly woo-woo side of things, which this whole episode does really, but it's, not something that we're taught to do. We don't really think about. And I love this, but we have this really short period of time where we get our babies to ourselves if you are a person with a womb. Once you conceive and you grow this baby, you've got that really short amount of time where you get them all to yourself. You get to just, share all of the little kicks and different feelings and emotions just with you and them. And then you've got to share your baby with the whole world as soon as they're born. So that's a really precious time. And if you can start that really lovely connection with your baby now, you get to extend that amount of time that it's just you and them. So the last thing is to lean into the fears. So this is a tricky one. So before I get to that, I just want to go through all of the list of the ways to help you surrender again. So number 1 was to focus on aligned action. Number 2 was to appreciate what's already thriving in your life. Number 3 was to live for right now. And number 4 is taking this a little bit deeper. Leaning into the fears is really scary. And these thoughts are only scary because they are unknown. And when your brain doesn't know the outcome about something, it tries to push that to the side, tries to avoid it to protect you, to try and keep you safe, because the possibility of things not going the way you want them is terrifying. And again, your brain doesn't understand degrees of safety. It can't really differentiate between this and a life and death situation. So how do we move through these fears and surrender into what is right now? And this is some mindset work. This is one of my favorite practices that I do even these days now when there is something that I'm struggling with. Write down your biggest fears, and they can be anything from I'm terrified my next embryo transfer won't be successful, or I'm terrified I'll end up without any children, or my daughter will never have a sibling. I'm terrified that I won't be able to give my partner a baby and they'll want to leave me. You can go deep with these. They can be silly. They can be really big and really frightening, but just write them all down. Get them out of your head. Get them down onto a page. So here's the tricky part. You're going to take each of these fears. You're going to list at least 3 reasons why it would actually be okay if they were true. And we are so resistant to doing this kind of work because we think that it is telling the universe that it's okay if we don't get what we want. But that is not at all what we're doing here. The purpose of this practice is to remind your brain, or to tell your brain, that you've actually considered that the worst case scenario has happened and you survived. You were fine. You actually got through it. You didn't like it, you didn't love it, but you survived. Because remember, your brain is so focused on survival. And this sounds extreme. Like I said, your brain doesn't know the difference. So for example, if you were to write down one of your biggest fears as, I am terrified I'm never going to have a baby, list 3 reasons why that would actually be okay. You could write, for example, I have a wonderful partner. We live in a beautiful city. We have great friends. Our life wouldn't be terrible. You could write something like, we would be more financially secure. We'd be able to travel more. We'd be able to, perhaps live in a nicer area, or whatever it is that would bring more financial freedom with that. You could write down how lovely it would be to not have the stress of raising a family with your partner, and it just gets to be the 2 of you. And you get to love and cherish each other without any other stresses to get in the way of that. And like I said, you don't have to like these outcomes and these answers. Just consider for a moment that that would be your life and that you were okay. And I can't tell you what a game changer this exercise is. I think it was one of the things for me that really got me over the line when I was trying to conceive. So I hope that this episode has helped you and has perhaps spoken to some of the fears that you have about being able to surrender into the timing and the unknown of this journey. And if you found this episode helpful, please do me a big favor and leave a review for the show. You can leave a star review. A written review is super helpful, and that just helps me get this podcast and all of these, different tools out to as many people as possible. So on the next episode of the podcast, we are going to be speaking to my good friend Ali about secondary infertility. And this is one of those topics that is super polarizing. And even if you are trying to conceive your first child, I'd really encourage you to have a listen to this one because, there are so many similarities between primary and secondary infertility. But the second journey just comes with a whole layer of complications and just unknowns that I never ever thought would be there, that I just never saw coming. So if you are in the boat of trying to conceive your second or maybe your third child, then this episode is one that you're going to find really helpful. So until then, I am sending you all my wishes as you continue your own journey to fertility. The most common thing I hear from students who are on their fertility journey is that the stress of trying to conceive has taken over their life. Your days end up being filled with endless appointments, navigating pregnancy announcements. You're trying to eat right, take all your supplements, and it is all you think about from the moment you wake up. I designed the Element Fertility Yoga course to support your body, your mind, and your mental health in 3 important ways: to synchronize your hormones, increase circulation and blood flow, and to help regulate your nervous system. But on top of this, the greatest gift that you can give yourself throughout this journey is a sense of peace, to help you calm your mind and just make this process feel easier. Every single one of my students tell me that this is the first thing they notice after starting a yoga, meditation, and breathwork practice. But on top of this, you have the amazing benefit of actually supporting and increasing your fertility. Studies have shown that those participating in mind-body programs as they're trying to conceive have success rates 3 times greater than those who don't. The course I've designed walks you through natural conception as well as fertility treatments and IVF cycles. And the best part is you can work through it at your own pace in the comfort of your home. The practices start from just 10 minutes per day. To learn more, visit elementpilatesyoga.com or see the link in the show notes.